Is LMMS any good? This free and open-source digital audio workstation was initially released back in 2004, and the acronym stands for Linux Multimedia Studio. LMMS is supposed to be a free alternative to popular music production programs such as Ableton and FL Studio, both of which are not free and quite expensive, but they have more features and functionality than LMMS. LMMS is free to use. It works on Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Chrome OS, BSD, Haiku OS, and other OSs, and it is very intuitive and straightforward, so beginners wanting to create some basic tunes or music can easily do so with this great digital audio workstation. However, if you intend on doing professional music production, FL Studio and Ableton may be better programs as they have more functionality, better quality sounds, and more advanced controls over things like track automation. While LMMS works on Linux and non-Microsoft OSs, you may be limited when it comes to using plugins and other things to enhance LMMS's functionality. A decent synthesizer such as Serum, Massive, or even Vital, costs money, and the latter of the three is free and open source, but there are premium bundles of Vital available, and Serum is better suited towards things like dubstep. Massive is also popular amongst electronic music producers, but these are not natively available on Linux, so while you can use LMMS on Linux, you will be limited by plugin support. Using plugins really enhances a digital audio workstation's functionality. It allows for you to produce more professional sounding music, and if you cannot use a decent or really good synthesizer such as Serum or Massive, your music won't sound professional, but rather, more basic. Despite this, LMMS is very popular amongst Windows users, and some Linux users appreciate it too. However, the lack of plugin support limits LMMS on Linux. You're limited to whatever works on Linux, and not as many plugins natively support Linux compared to Windows, so most users who use LMMS use Windows because the plugin support is far superior, but on Linux, Haiku, or another OS, you can make basic chiptune music, or other basic music. You could also make basic drum and bass, and other genres of electronic music, but for more advanced genres or for more professional sounding results, it is sadly almost impossible to accomplish this without using Windows or Mac OS, and if you think Wine or a virtual machine is the solution, think again. Wine might be able to translate an app or program so that it can communicate with Linux, but if it is something that will need significant graphics or processing power, you will likely run into latency and other problems, and Wine is just a workaround, so the software will not run as efficiently on Linux because it is simply not designed for it, and a VM is just as bad, because it is often restricted to about half or less of your entire resources, and a VM often also has latency and other problems, and you may need to have a lot of RAM, as well as an SSD for optimal performance. And this defeats the purpose of using Linux, because you're now relying on Windows to run that Windows-only software, which is not embracing Linux. Sure, emulation is generally better on Linux, but this is not to say that you should rely on it. In fact, it makes more sense to use a Windows host and keep Linux on a separate machine, so you can retain access to that Windows software while having access to Linux. And you don't need a really powerful PC for Linux, so if you are thinking of using Linux, carefully consider your options and go with what you think best suits you. LMMS has some presets and many basic sounds and instruments pre-included with it, and there are many effects bundled into LMMS, including but not limited to distortion, compressors, graphical EQs, flanners and phasers, wah-wah effect, etc. So it's plenty powerful for starting out, but as you grow more advanced, you may feel the need to use more advanced plugins and effects, and sadly, many of the popular synthesizers, which is what you really need to make your music sound professional, are not natively available on Linux. Vital is an exception, but it also has packs which are paid for, so you have to buy them to use them, and while it might work on Linux, it does not integrate with LMMS really well like it would on Windows. So this really goes to show you that Linux is just not suitable for music production. Aside from basic stuff such as video game music, chiptunes, and basic electronic music, you could make classical music or other basic music genres too, but only using stock LMMS plugins, presets, and instruments, which will limit you greatly. But if you feel like you do not need all that good stuff, it's perfectly usable and you can bang out some decent tunes on your laptop or PC with it. It's very easy to use and is intuitive, so you should get familiar with LMMS pretty quickly once you start using it. To say that LMMS is a free alternative to FL Studio is misleading, because as mentioned earlier, it lacks the quality sounds, advanced features and functionality that these other DAWs have. And while it can bang out some decent tunes, you're certainly not going to be the next Skrillex or big-name dubstep artist if you use LMMS on Linux or other Unix-like systems. You will be limited to whatever VSTs and plugins support Linux and those other systems. So, is LMMS any good? Yes, and no. This is really dependent on your use case however, so it really depends on the genre of music you want to make. Wanna make music that sounds like something from an old Nintendo game? LMMS is perfect for that. But if you're looking to do more advanced music or get more professional sounding results, you will likely want to look at using another digital audio workstation, and on top of that, use it on Windows, so you can have the best support for plugins and VSTs. As mentioned earlier, you can dedicate a machine for music production. It could be your custom PC or gaming laptop. That's ideal to keep Windows on because you can use it to your advantage. But if you want to dig deep into the world of free and open source, go right ahead, nobody is stopping you. Anyway, that will do it for this video folks. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you next video. Bye for now.